You're gonna stand right here. This is our spot, which is hate fucking free.
Last I was aware, this is the Boston Common.
The Boston Common is a hate-free spot. Do you understand that?
And they just won't stop, you know? We have done everything in our power. We have used every peaceful and lawful means by which to redress our grievances. And our enemies just will not stop. They are threatening us all over the place. Chelsea Manning, this tranny fanatic, has a picture of herself, talking about curb-stomping Nazis with a picture of his boot coming down on somebody.
And a guy just got shot. Yeah, there's some agitators out here that are kicking papers.
Resist, brothers, sisters, brothers. Camacho, there's an Antifa. So today we were trying to resist the Nazis, and I was out there just minding my own business. And you know, because I know the Nazis like to use Nazi pepper and Nazi spray, I had my gas mask on to protect myself. Didn't protect the top of my head when I fell down, but one of them fired a canister of some sort of pepper spray at me, and it hit me in my no-no. So the doctor here is gonna have one of the OBGYN come take a look at me and see what happened, but I'll be all right. I just want to let you know what's going on. So be careful, because the Nazis will definitely, they don't care. They will shoot you right in your tiddlywinks, which is what they got me in. So just continue to resist the resistors that are resisting the resistance, brothers, sisters, brothers.
Anyone politically to the right of Maxine Waters is now a Nazi. And it gets worse. If you don't hate the now labeled Nazi for disagreeing with the liberal agenda such as BLM or Antifa or tearing down Confederate statues, then you're a Nazi too. And for God's sake, if you're a conservative, don't dare tell somebody you aren't a Nazi, because in the mind of a liberal, you just proved you are a Nazi.
No, ma'am.
Do you? This is a hate-free spot. We're all here for equality, not for your white supremacy Nazi shit.
I'm not here for white supremacy.
So why are you here?
I'm here to talk.
You're here. You should be here for equal rights.
Why?
What? Have you ever been oppressed?
Yes,
no.
ma'am.
No. I know. You're a white straight male. Am I correct? Am I correct? You're a white straight male.
When have
you been oppressed?
When?
Never.
When I was growing up in middle and elementary school.
You have not been afraid to go outside. You have not been afraid to do anything.
I have had the shit kicked out of me for being white.
Good.
Girl, boy, man, woman, cisgender, transgender, queer, gender non-queer, man,
gender
transgender, unicorn. With so many gender identities and terms being used, gender can be confusing to anyone.
Do not hit somebody that you assume is a neo-Nazi. You cannot do that. He is on our side. Do not do that. Just sit down. Here we are, man. Let's get you a medic. Well, what are you here for today, and what are you expecting? Are you going to stay around?
I'm not exactly sure right now.
However, not all people identify as the binary identities of boy and girl, but somewhere in between the two. So gender isn't two locked boxes that we find ourselves in. Gender is actually a spectrum that we all can move along, or not identify with at all.
We had gone from being children that basically were afraid to say we're undocumented to chanting on the streets and protesting and taking over offices and infiltrating detention centers and saying we're undocumented and afraid. People with citizenship, allies, there's a lot that they can do so long as they do it with respect. I wholeheartedly believe that undocumented people have to be the ones leading their movement, our movement.
So you advocate violence?
Yeah. I got shit kicked out of me by police before. I'm white.
Well, yeah, you're wearing a mask over your face.
Yeah, good, because I stand against your bullshit.
What bullshit is that?
Fucking fascism.
I'm not in favor of fascism. I'm quite the opposite.
Oh, yeah?
I'm in favor of small government.
Oh, bullshit.
I don't want to see governmental control.
We see what you're doing.
I am not part deaf.
Why do you think you're better than
like taking pictures of people, do you?
I'm not taking a picture.
Yeah?
No. It's a video, but it's not a picture.
What's your fucking story?
My story?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I was born a disenfranchised, marginalized black man in the south of Calgary.
Yeah.
Made my way all the way up the food chain till
embraced conservative politics.
Whoa! What are you talking about, bro?
All right, dude. Sorry.
No, dude. Hey. Bro, why would I be here, dog? Only Nazi conservatives, bro. Jeez.
We are still slaves to this day, whether it be mental, financial, material, spiritual. These are things that we have to attack on every side because the enemy is attacking on every side.
This is why we have self-defense classes, to make sure we can have the best response when we are doing non-armed or armed rescues.
We are warriors. Not only do we have to fight the man, we got to fight our men.
Do you see the gun sort of phallic or masculine?
I think some of them are kind of sexy.
On the finale of Boy Band, the top 5, or shall I say, in real life, was revealed. And what should have been a celebratory moment quickly became a trending topic on Twitter as fans voiced their disappointment with the diversity in America's new boy band.
The final member of In Real Life is Michael Connor.
Listen, Michael Connor was definitely one of my faves. Unfortunately, not everyone agreed that he should have made the band. Like this Twitter user who stated, another boy band with no black people, the rapper over the actual singer, Jaden was the best singer there. Wow, just wow. Some users thought that Marcus or Jaden should have made the band, but it's important to point out that In Real Life isn't completely whitewashed.
Now, there are some elements, other elements of haram in music, in games. Music and women were women, okay? So you should avoid those games that have music and women. And that's it, inshallah.
He hasn't really talked to me all that much.
Leave! Nobody wants you here! Go home! Get the fuck out! Get the fuck out!
Dude, legit question though. Legit question. Why did you come to a free speech rally if you had nothing to say?
I wanted to listen.
All right.
I wanted to listen to all sides. And so far, I've talked to a lot of very convincing...
Get going.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Sir.
Yeah, let's go.
Into the oldest monument to Christopher Columbus in North America. Christopher Columbus symbolizes the initial invasion of European capitalism into the Western Hemisphere. Columbus initiated a centuries-old wave of terrorism, murder, genocide, rape, slavery, ecological degradation, and capitalist exploitation of labor in the Americas. That Columbian wave of destruction continues on the backs of indigenous, African American, and brown people. Racist monuments to slave owners and murderers have always bothered me. Baltimore's poverty is concentrated in African American households, and these statues are just an extra slap in the face They were built in the 20th century in response to a movement for African Americans' dignity. What kind of a culture goes to such lengths to build such hate-filled monuments? What kind of a culture clings to these monuments in 2017? The culture of white supremacy preceded the United States. It's at the foundation of U.S. culture, business, bureaucracies, and psychology. Observe how vehemently Republican and Democratic misleaders defend genocidal terrorists like Christopher Columbus and George Washington. White supremacy and the systems that sustain it must be replaced, or people will continue to suffer and the planet will continue to die. Part of our evolution as humans requires tearing down monuments to destructive forces and tearing down systems that maintain them. Part of our evolution is to develop new and ancient systems of democratic economics that center the needs of poor, indigenous, African American, and brown people.
Stephanie Piccone with that report, but let's turn now to the push to rename Father's Day Special Persons Day so children without a dad aren't offended. A growing number of politically correct schools and kindies are embracing the name change, but they're copping a lot of criticism for it. Now, earlier I spoke with Dr. Red Ruby Scarlett, a university academic and convener of the Social Justice in Early Childhood activist group. Well, Red, firstly, thank you very much for your time. Look, what is the argument for having Special Persons Day rather than Father's Day?
Thank you for having me as well. If we think about children's rights and how they get to participate in a community and feel a sense of belonging, sometimes shifting the language around those emotive and important days can be significant and more inclusive than the current way that we describe them.
So is it essentially, though, for children who don't have a dad for whatever reason?
Yes, but also there are children who have a dad who also have a grandfather and also have an auntie and also have other kinds of relatives. There are also a huge range of different family structures. So we have single-parent families, satellite families, extended families, lesbian and gay families.
What feedback are you getting from parents and teachers who have introduced these Special Persons Days?
There's a range of different communities across Australia, and I've actually been talking with them over the last couple of days since this has been in the media. And essentially what happens in early childhood is they work very closely with their communities and they negotiate these kinds of emotive and special family events with the families who are attending the centre. So there's quite a lot of input, and I think the conversation or the argument, as you'd said from the get-go, maybe isn't so much about the educators and the families. I'm wondering whether it's people who care about children and worry that they won't have these significant family days and celebrations in their educational settings, but perhaps they don't quite know the context of what's happening in those particular communities.
But there has been a backlash.
There has been a backlash, but the backlash hasn't necessarily come from families in those communities. It's people outside those particular contexts.
Your activist group is Social Justice in Early Childhood. Why is social justice important for little kids?
There's a lot of Australian research that has actually informed a lot of international research, teacher research, for example, that has demonstrated children's capacity to be really inclusive once they know about these ideas and they think, wow, why are people seeing this as a controversy? Why are we calling this political correctness when in fact it's about our rights?
OK, Red, and before we do let you go, people will be wondering, I am anyway, is Red Ruby Scarlett your real name?
Yes, it is.
Oh, Dr. Scarlett, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Well, we'd like to know what you think. Should Father's Day be renamed Special Persons Day? To vote in the poll, just head to our website.
We wouldn't, as a movement, take a seat at the table with Trump because we wouldn't have done that with Hitler. Trump is literally the epitome of evil. All the evils of this country, be it racism, capitalism, sexism, homophobia, and he has set out some of the most dangerous policies, not just that impacts this country, but impacts the globe. And so for us, the answer is not to sit with Trump, but to resist him and to resist every single policy that he's implemented that impacts our communities. And I think if I'm thinking about what I want my children to know in 30, 40, 50 years, I want them to know that I resisted a president at all costs, because this president literally tried to kill our community.
A Black Lives Matter activist has come up with a solution to racial inequality in the U.S. Helm, the movement's organizer in Kentucky, wrote an article making 10 suggestions for white people. The first says they should leave their property to minorities if they don't have any descendants. The list also urges readers to record people who make racist comments in the workplace and get them fired. We asked Helm about the initiative and also invited comment from political activist Jeffrey Klein.
One of the later numbers of the 10 suggestions was to essentially seek out Nazis in the workplace and get them fired. And the word Nazi has been so watered down lately that I don't think anybody really knows what it means anymore.
Let's remember where the word Nazi even comes from. It comes from Germanic people who were who proclaimed to have this superior race. That's what white supremacy is. That's what white supremacy is in the U.S. We are talking about a systemic economic barrier that prevents black and brown people who were already on this land from even